Hi, my name's Lindy Cowling. Welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of the video today is Core Soul Wound Release Equation. Core soul wound release equation, and this particular one is for shame, humiliation, isolation. So as you know, if you are a regular subscriber, a regular viewer of my channel, all work shared by me from the very beginning, and the beginning being almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years just into the early months of 2018 since I've been on YouTube. All work shared by me is experiential, which means I have direct experience of it personally or professionally. That is the way I prefer to work, actually living it, living through it, embodying it, shifting through it, coming into it that way. So I prefer to work that way, and I've always worked and shared that way on YouTube. So there's some really interesting stuff that I am seeing personally and professionally, and kind of shifts within me and shifts within the work I'm doing with people. And this video I'm doing today is kind of not along dissimilar lines to the one I brought out a week or so ago, where I was sounding to release collective grief and individual grief. Now, I don't feel I'm going to be doing any sounding on this one. I'm not drawn to today, although I am going to give out a series of digits, like a frequency, like I did in that one about releasing collective and personal grief. But also my voice, again, as you can hear, is extremely croaky. It's just croaky all the time now. You know, for those of you that want an update, I'm still in my present living situation and still working on changing that situation. But as of today, which is the 9th, I'm a day ahead, 9th of October, the situation in this place hasn't changed. So there may be a bigger reason for that, which actually is kind of connected with the video today. What a surprise. So we'll see. But anyway, in the course of my work over the last few weeks, I've been seeing really some real, let's call it the guts of it coming up for people, to do with the real fundamental root and core of why people are still playing out certain patterns and belief systems. So this is what is the spontaneous reason for this. So as always, to try and keep it simple and work this through literally like an equation, really, it's a simpler way to do it, I'm going to work on a simple example. So this could be, the example I'm going to use would be a lady that has been or is carrying a significant amount of physical weight. Now, I'm going to use this as an example, just as the model, but I could have used a lady or a man that is an alcoholic, a lady or a man that is a sex addict, a lady or a man that is taking vast quantities of recreational drugs. You know what I mean? I mean, I could have gone on and on here. I'm just using the lady that is carrying a lot of weight as a model, as an example. Now, when I worked this equation through a few days ago, when I say worked it through, it came spontaneously to me from the heart, and I was writing it down, and I don't often write things down, but I was writing it down. So I may I've written a few notes here, and I may glance away, or I might actually have to pick them up at one point in it if I slightly lose my thread, because I want to work it back like an equation. So like I say, this is just one example using the lady with the weight. So the lady with the weight could be, again, a man with alcohol, somebody with drug issues, someone with addictions, sexual addictions, whatever, whatever. So the lady with the weight. So I ask her to look inside at what the underlying theme, or what the secondary gain to her carrying that weight is. So what I mean by that is, what is the psychological or subconscious or unconscious reasoning? What is it doing for her? So I looked at very logical themes of it first, the most logical ones that you would kind of think of. But I asked her to go dig deep. And then after we did the, let's say, the surface layers, so surface layers like protection, comfort, being more of her to go round, things like that. We then went a little bit deeper, and I got her to look at what emotions she was attaching to carrying the weight. And she said, without hesitation, shame. So it's a bit like that if you've watched Game of Thrones. When is it? I might even have the name wrong here, so I'm not very good on things like this. I think it might be Cersei. Is it Cersei? When she was locked up in prison, and then they made her walk naked through the town, throwing crap at her and all sorts of things to humiliate her. And everyone was going, shame, shame, shame. It was this kind of thing. So she said the emotion that she was attaching to the weight was shame and humiliation. So when I got her to go a little bit deeper on that, we discovered, or she discovered, she had the realization that that shame and humiliation did not come from outside of her. She was perceiving it was coming from outside of her. It was coming from inside of her. So it was her way of wearing her shame and humiliation. So we didn't just leave it at that. It's like, why was there the need on a soul level for her to wear shame and humiliation in the form of weight? We backtracked all the big ones that came up in her head. So we didn't dig around everywhere, just the big ones, to get to the originator point. All the big ones where shame and humiliation had been a theme for her. And we worked kind of backwards. So we worked from the most recent one, back, and a series of things. I'll give you some examples, like the most recent one, the shame and humiliation she had attributed actually to her weight, but her weight was a product of the shame and humiliation, and actually the core wound under it, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we went back through her timeline. Okay, when did you feel shame and humiliation before? And she felt shame collectively on behalf of her country, but she also felt shame on behalf of her mother, because her mother, as a narcissist, was incapable of feeling shame. So the daughter was feeling the shame. So that was one layer. So we went back down earlier. Another layer was feeling shame on behalf of her twin flame, because her twin flame was incapable of feeling the shame from when he was 7 years old, and his parents got divorced, led by his mother, but it got construed to blame the father. And in order to avoid shame, he went for a long period of time at school, I think it ran into years, without letting on or telling anybody that his parents had got divorced because of the shame. So this woman was processing the shame on behalf of a soul connection as well, and the humiliation. Then the shame and humiliation for this woman of not being around her soul connection and of having left her marriage for the soul connection and having believed in the soul connection so much also was in the equation. We backtrack it earlier. We backtrack it to being bullied at school for her, not being accepted and being bullied for being, let's say, unique. Then we backtrack it again to not being accepted by her own parents and feeling the way she described it. She couldn't describe it as shame and humiliation because as a young child of like 3, 4, 5, 6, you can't really articulate such emotions. It's very much more a primal response. So the earliest way she could remember it in her way of how a 4-year-old could do it was not feeling safe or accepted and feeling outside of the pack, isolated. So here we get to the interesting stuff, because that word isolated came up. And so you can see all the dots beginning to add up now, because the weight was the end product from the emotional component of shame and humiliation, which were worn physically to create the weight, to highlight the core soul wound. But underneath shame and humiliation, the core soul wound was isolation. And to her, the ideal way to highlight isolation, to bring this to the surface, to bring this to her awareness, or the ideal way to bring isolation to the fore, the ideal way of making an excuse for isolation was to create circumstances that were humiliating and shameful to her to further enhance and highlight isolation. So when there wasn't just one set of circumstances to do it and she wasn't getting the message, other circumstances materialized, like her living circumstances. So she was in living circumstances, a living accommodation situation, where those circumstances were humiliating to her. Not being able to be proud of where she was living was humiliating to her. Them not being conducive to her health was humiliating to her. So the same message was coming over and over again: shame, humiliation, being worn as weight, but it could be for somebody else as alcohol, drugs, anything else. I'm just using that as an example. But the actual core soul wound was isolation, total isolation. Because how does she know it was isolation? Because it totally resonated with her mind, body, heart, and soul. It set up a realization, which is like goosebumps, hairs going on end, that aha moment, that shift in energy, that realization of, as young as she could articulate it, feeling helpless, isolated, not accepted by her own parents, not accepted to be here, not valued, not enough. So it's quite magical how we get to that point. So when you get to that point, or if you get to that point and working it through to what the actual core soul wound is, so the originator point, well, I could say the originator point was, it looked on the outside to be shame and humiliation, but in fact, the originating point is actually the core soul wound, one and the same. It's isolation. And ironically, in the woman's life at the moment is a set of circumstances that directly mirrors on every 360-degree view isolation. So you could say to me, what do we do when we recognize that isolation? The first thing you do is you have a shift and a realization, an aha moment. Whatever your core soul wound is, yours might be different to isolation, whatever it is. When you recognize it, you'll know. It'll be like, aha, bingo, I got it. So it's that identifying it it causes a release of energy, a release and a bursting out, a breakthrough of energy. And it's all the numbers lining up to do that. And the numbers for this particular shame, humiliation, isolation. So I could say that all of those led back to isolation, but we could also almost like isolate shame and humiliation and say that if that's your core soul wound, this same equation would apply. So the frequency, the numbers that line up with that release are 5, 5, 5, 5, 3. 5, 5, 5, 5, 3. So one of the ways you release is by recognizing it, having that aha realization moment. You can subconsciously, unconsciously, or consciously ask, repeat a mantra, ask out loud for that to be released on frequency 55553. You can also, as your aware, empowered adult self that you are now, go back to the originator point in childhood, if it was in your childhood, that is, and actually comfort, reassure, give the wisdom to the younger consciousness of you there and merge the two. So the younger consciousness of you is fully supported and aware and actually safe and with you then. You can also bring any of your guide teams with you, or what you would call angels, your guide team. You can do it from higher self. I mean, it's been done from higher self anyway, source, God, whatever you want to apply as the terminology there. You can also bring the colour gold into it. So see yourself wearing gold back there in your childhood, or being embraced by the adult you with gold, merging with the adult you in gold. And if you ask me why gold, because it is a fantastic, and in my view, ideal colour to alchemize and heal and transform these kind of belief systems and patterns and frequencies. It's the ideal way to do it. And then there is like a shift. Now, I personally feel that there's another way of doing this, which is a bit like in the video that I did a few videos back. Again, the one on sounding the soul, get to release grief patterns. And that is, if you are drawn to make particular sound while you're releasing that, please do it, because I am really getting big on the sound side of things. And actually this week I've joined a chanting kind of group So I haven't been yet, so I don't know what to expect, but all to do with sound and moving through sound. And all I can say is I've experienced some phenomenal releases using sound personally and professionally, with friends or friends using it with me as well, recently within the last month. And sound bypasses any of the shenanigans of the mind, any of the overanalyzing. Just goes straight in, straight into the energy field, straight into the heart, straight into the soul, without overcomplicating things. Now, I know some of us like to overcomplicate things, and some of us liked a different approach to that, and some of us wouldn't be seen dead sounding, and others of us are quite happy to do it. So there are different tools, different toolkits to get to the same end, different means to the same end. So you can see, I hope, as a working model there, how I got to that. Now, your core soul wound may be a different one, and there is more than one core soul wound. There may be another theme, but the one that will come up is the one that's, let's say, been causing you most aggro or most trouble, or the one that's been holding you back or trying to get your attention, bleeding through, constantly mirroring and projecting it into your life until you get the message and say, hang on a minute. Another thing you can do there as well is if you get to the point of the core soul wound, you can feel around that your body to see if that's in a particular part of your body. Now, my hands automatically just went to my stomach then. So you can feel around your body, not just your energy field, to feel if you've been holding that emotion in a particular part of your body, or if it's all of your body, check out, use your intuition where you're led to go. And you can also feel with your intuition and your senses, is that kind of the energy blocked there, or is it sort of yucky stuff in there? I call it, it's like black treacle stuff, stagnant energy. And if so, you can again ask your higher self or your oversoul or God or the angels or whatever you resonate with to help you transform that or release it. When I'm actually doing hands-on healing or healing, any kind of healing work via Skype, energetic sessions, I often see this in people and I remove it energetically, and I see it very much as black strands of stuff that I kind of have to keep removing until it's gone. And if you are able to do that, if you're a healer or you're around a healer that knows that, or you're just able to do it in almost like a relaxed state, then you can do that. But make sure if you do remove any stagnant energy that you fill that space again with gold, fill it with light. Don't leave yourself an energetic hole where there was something filling it up. So I really hope that helps. So again, just to clarify, when you track it back down from the beginning, so if it's alcohol issues, if it's weight issues, if it's addiction issues, if it's recreational drug issues, or anything else that I haven't mentioned there, and you are walking around as the end product of these happenings, these belief systems, these circumstances, track it then to walk it back to what emotion you're fixing onto that, and what emotions are connected with it. If it's shame, humiliation, it might be different ones to that. And it might be just one emotion, but different to what I've said. Then track back all the other times in your life that you've felt that. And it won't be hours and hours. I mean, it'll probably be a few minutes. Oh yeah, that was when I was 19. Oh yeah, that was when I was whatever. Track it back, track it back, track it back. Until you know in your heart of hearts, with your own gut feeling, that you've got to the originating point. And how you know, you'll just feel it. You'll just know. Otherwise, you'll be like, I'm not sure that's it. Take it back to where that emotion started. Now, you might find it's as simple as that. Oh, yeah, it's that. And it isn't a core soul wound. It's like shame or humiliation or something else. And you can still release it in the same way that I've explained that I'm going to repeat again. Or you might find there's another one underneath you didn't even know was there, like isolation. And that's actually the core soul theme of it. So whatever you're left with, you'll know if you've hit the nail on the head, you'll have the realization You ask out loud, or you can sound, or you can say a mantra. I release this to, you know, that corresponds with frequency 55553. Shame, humiliation, isolation, you know, that kind of thing. You could say to me, what if you're watching, I'm watching this video and I have something that's not in alignment with that. Can I use the same numbers? My gut feeling on that is using the same numbers will not be detrimental whatsoever, and it will release any shame, humiliation, or isolation themes wrapped in around that core soul wound. I think what's going to happen here is what I said a couple of videos back. I think I'm going to bring out a series of 6 along these kind of themes because it keeps coming to me. And I did think this one would be sounding as well, but as you can hear from my voice, I'm still having issues here with the property I'm living in. I'm laughing because you'll see why in a minute. Right, so what I would do, you could still use those numbers, and that's not going to be detrimental in any way if your core soul theme isn't the same as that. Once you have that realization, aha moment, you can visit the originator point or the core soul wound if that was you experienced much younger in adult life or as a child. Wrap yourself in gold, wrap them in gold, visualize filling up with gold, reassuring them, telling them they're safe, they're enough if it's that one. Giving them the wisdom of you now, almost like merging with you now as the consciousness of you as the child, bringing them home into the heart. You can do all of this. You can release by making sounds. I mean, identifying and realizing it is half of it. And then if you sense that there is a block somewhere in your body or energy stuck somewhere in your body, you can go to a healer or someone, you know, a healer like me. I can do these things remotely and energetically via phone or on Skype as well. Or you can kind of do it yourself, move the energy yourself. If you are aware that old stagnant energy in there, you can kind of visualize moving that out. Never leave an empty vacuum. Fill that with gold or fill that with pure light. I prefer to work with gold to alchemize and to just feel where that space is. And give yourself a chance to assimilate it. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope I made that straightforward as possible. As I said, this is an experiential channel. Everything shared here is shared by me because I have worked through it or done the process personally, or worked through it and done the process with other people professionally, and or both. And in case you didn't guess, the working model that I've used as part of the template that this channel is in the example of this video is and was me. On that note, I will love you and leave you. Thank you, as always, for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the support in all the ways that you offer it. Thank you for the donations, and I hope you guys are doing okay. I'll love you and leave you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Bye.